Alright, so welcome back. First Formula 2 sprint race of the season done. So let's go over all the action from today's race. So there was a staller on the grid, so it was Benavidez, but he managed to get off his grid box before the moment where they decide that they have to go and start from the pit lane, so he was all good. Arthur Leclerc, Charles Leclerc's younger brother, started P3, Roman Stanek started P2, and Ralph Boschung started P1 in the Campos. So remember, this is the sprint race, so the top 10 from qualifying are reversed, so the pole sitter Théo Pourchaire starts P10 instead. Of course, for tomorrow's race, the feature race, he will start P1. So poor start from Stanek, he was passed almost immediately by Iwasa behind. Boschung keeps the lead going into turn 1. There was contact at turns 5 and 6 and 7 between Iwasa and Leclerc, not a lot, just a little bit of minor rubbing and bumping. Stanek locks up into turn 10 and then he goes extremely wide at turn 15, so very scruffy opening lap for Stanek. Lap 2, Pourchaire goes down the inside of turn 1 trying to overtake Stanek, doesn't get it done, but gets it done at turn 10. Lap 3, Victor Martins overtakes Leclerc at turn 1 for 3rd place, and at the same point, Pourchaire overtakes Hauger for 5th, and he makes a little bit of contact with the end of the nose cone with the car in front, but no harm done. At the same point, same lap, Dorula overtakes Stanek at turn 4 for P6. Lap 4, Martin overtakes Miney overtakes Stanek on the very edge of the grass, on the edge of the track, on the run up to turn 4, but looked clean, and then Stanek almost gets passed by Vesti as well. Lap 5, Pourchaire overtakes Leclerc. He looks at turn 1, he looks extremely confident on the brakes much later, and as a result he's carrying a lot of speed, which is how he ended up hitting the car in front the lap before, because he's carrying so much more speed into turn 1 compared to the other cars. Let's see. At this point they announced that for both Arthur Leclerc and Isaac Hadjar, the rookie, they both got a 10-second stop-go penalty. And this was basically because both of them had their team personnel were still on the grid well after they should have, and they showed the replay at this time. They were still working on the cars, they were still around the cars, and it's not the driver's fault, but it's a safety thing, so unfortunately they get punished for it. Lap 6, Pourchaire sets fastest lap. At this point looks in great shape, looks like he's in control, is passing about one car every lap, and I was thinking at this point maybe he had a pretty good chance, good chance of winning this race. Turns out that's not the case, but there's pretty entertaining stuff early on. So let's see. Okay, so Stanek passes Miney at turn 4 again for 8th, and they continue battling all the way till turn 8. Lap 7, so of course Leclerc and Hadjar take their drop penalty at this point. Martin's is getting close to the back of Iwasa and is, gained on him the last 5 laps. Lap 9, Martins overtakes Iwasa at turn 1 for 2nd, but Iwasa comes back in turn 5 and 6. So Iwasa was really strong going from at the complex from at the top of the hill from turns 4, 5, 6. And even though it looked like he had been overtaken multiple times this race, he was able to come back and stay ahead. So that was the first instance of that. So at this point, Pourchaire was catching up to the back of this battle. So it was Iwasa 2nd, Martins 3rd, and Pourchaire 4th. Lap 11, Hauger's joining the back of this battle, so it's really tight, and Boschung is in front by 2.9 seconds. So he's sailing clear in the distance, not a care in the world, while this really intense battle for 2nd place is happening. Lap 12, Martins tries to go around the outside of turn 4, it's a really tricky move, doesn't stick, and then a bad lockup for Pourchaire at turn 10. So this is kind of, I think, where Pourchaire's race kind of started going downhill. Before the lockup, he was the fastest driver on track, and he was overtaking and gaining on the cars in front extremely quickly, but after this it kind of stopped and he started fading quite a bit towards the end. Lap 13, Martins passes Iwasa at turn 1 and gets back at turn 5, So, and then Martins is ahead going into turn 8. So they had a really exciting close battle going from turn 5 through to turn 8. So great stuff there. Porsche goes down the inside of turn 10, but looks like he gets ahead, but Iwasa stays ahead going into turn 11. So great stuff by Iwasa to stay ahead of those around who looked faster at that point in the race. Let's see, at lap 14, so this is where Porsche's race starts to unravel. Hauger passes Porsche at turn 1 for P4, and Porsche tries to repass at turn 4 but doesn't get there. Lap 15, bad lockup for Iwasa at turn 14, which is an unusual spot to get a lockup. And he almost got overtaken, and in fact was overtaken by Hauger basically at turn 1. The next lap was very, very easy for him for Hauger to get past. That point, Porsche passes at turn 3, but again, Iwasa gets him back at turn 4 and 5. So Iwasa really strong in that part of the track. Lap 17, Crawford gets a 5-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So probably going off track and possibly staying ahead of another driver where they should have let him past. And then, let's see, Fittipaldi passes Vesti for 10th and is also passed directly after by Maloney. So, and right after that, Vesti basically pits for fresh tires, and he, along with Nissany and his teammate Behrman, also pit. So I think Prema is having a really poor race overall. Not sure if they're having really poor issues with tire deg, but if that's the case, they're going to be in a world of hurt for the future race tomorrow. Let's see, so lap 18, Miney gets past Stanek again for 7th. Good paddling between Maloney and Fittipaldi going from turn 10 to 11 to 12. So great stuff there. At this point, let's see, Correa gets a 5-second penalty for track limits. Unfortunately, there's 2 drivers with the last name COR, so they changed the abbreviations. So I think it was Correa, or it could have been Cordial, not sure which. Lap 20, good battle between Porsche and Deruvilla through 5, 6, 7, and 8, and Porsche stays ahead. So at this point, Iwasa and Hauger ahead are miles out, and Porsche's really fallen back, and Deruvilla was right on his heels trying to overtake. Let's see, So I was thinking at this point, maybe he had just used up his tires. Obviously, the lockup earlier, the really bad lockup he had at turn 10, maybe that contributed to it as well. So lap 21, so at this point, Porsche was 3 seconds behind, and Hauger caught up to the back of the Martin, so that was exciting. We're thinking maybe he would get past. Lap 22, Hauger gets a great run out of turn 4, tries to get by him at 8 but doesn't, but then passes him at turn 11. So great overtake by Hauger in the closing laps of the race to get past Victor Martins, the rookie, at turn 11. Very tricky because it's a very high-speed corner, and it's very hard to stay down the inside, to stick a car down the inside of that corner and stay ahead, because often the car on the inside can basically just carry a lot more speed, stay around the outside of that corner, which then naturally becomes the inside of turn 12. So a great overtake there by Hauger. Lap 23, Porsche gets a really poor exit in the exit of turn 1, and Deruvilla tries to go around the outside of him at turn 4 but isn't able to get sticks. Looks like something happened to Stanek on the last lap. He was in like 10th, 11th place, and then he just keeps dropping and drops till 13th. So I don't know if his tire went or what happened there, but that's the end of the race. Boschung wins. I don't know if that's Boschung's first win or not. It might be, but great race by Boschung. He was able to stay in front, and he's the championship leader, so you can at least say that. He's championship leader at some point in Formula 2 this year. Second was Hauger, third was Martins, fourth was Iwasa, fifth Porsche, sixth Deruvilla, seventh Miney, eighth Fittipaldi, ninth Maloney, 10th one Manuel Correa. So great, decent drive on his comeback. Obviously, this is his first Formula 2 race since that horrific and tragic accident at Spa all those years ago in 2019. 11th Doohan, okay-ish recovery, was expecting a bit more. 12th Leclerc, good recovery from the drive-through penalty that he got through no fault of his own. 13th Stanek, yeah, pretty rough race for Stanek, starting from second all the way to third, dropping to 13th, so not great. 14th Crawford, 15th Behrman, he was one of the drivers to pit, so not great. 16th Novalek, 17th Vesti, again pitted. 18th Nissani, 19th Benavides, 20th Hajar, 21st Amori Cadillo, and 22nd Richard Rashore. Don't know, it didn't look like he finished, so he might have just pitted at the end of before the last lap. So very early, very tentative championship standings. Boschen first with 10 points, second Hauger with 8 points, third Martins with 6 points, and on countback, and fourth Porchero with 6 points. Remember, Porchero gets 2 points, 2 additional points for the pole position, so that's why he's at 6 points. Fifth Iwasa with 5 points, sixth Deruvalo with 3 points, seventh Miney with 2 points, and eighth Fittipaldi with 1 single point for 8th place in the sprint race. All the other drivers 0 points. So that's the opening race of the Formula 2 season, opening sprint race, and of course tomorrow is the future race. Overall, I thought it was okay, not too chaotic. The drivers were pretty well behaved, no safety cars, no yellows, no big accidents or crashes. Most of the big action at the front was in the first kind of 5-10 laps. Second half of the lap race was the field really spread out, and it wasn't as much overtaking, but still interesting race nonetheless. So that's all. I'll be back later in a couple hours with the F1 qualifying result, and of course tomorrow with the F1 race, the Bahrain Grand Prix opening race of the season, and the F2 feature race. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and please leave your comments on how you thought the race went and maybe what your predictions are for the race tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.